Whenever you wonder about pirates, the first thing you see is either Captain Jack Sparrow chilling at some bar, or Edward Kenway chanting with his crew, living the moment, or raiding a fort just for fun. And it seems like he's living an awesome life, let's be honest.
But in reality, being a pirate was a disgusting, desperate, disease-ridden nightmare. Edward Kenway never once stopped to deal with a fungal infection or pink eye.
Before we get to the psycho captains, let's talk about the ultimate dirty secret of the Golden Age of Piracy, the looting reality. Pirates weren't chasing chests of gold coins most of the time. You know what they actually looted more than anything else? Clothes, basic survival gear, soap, and medicine. Because they lived on wet wooden ships infested with rats and feces, their clothes literally rotted off their bodies. Pirate crews would raid a merchant ship, force the captive crew to strip naked at gunpoint, and steal their jackets and underwear just so they wouldn't die of exposure or a fungal infection that ends careers. They were essentially heavily armed, not into fashion, covered in lice, but deep down 100% convinced they were killing it. Ubisoft's costume department is quietly thanking God they didn't go for historical accuracy. Now here's the part nobody puts in the movies. Pirate ships were weirdly democratic. Crews voted on their captain. They voted on whether to attack a ship at all. There were actual written contracts called articles that laid out how loot got split. And if you lost an eye, you get 2 chests of silver, you lose a leg, and you get a gold leg and a mini fridge, like workers' comp, with a peg leg deductible. So picture that boardroom energy, but everyone's got scurvy and a cutlass. In this case, HR department does stand for Hellraisers. But if you want a story that proves how truly unhinged these people were, you have to meet Philip Line. Line was a captain who operated in 1725, and he makes Blackbeard look like a little b. Edward Kenway's whole thing was, I want a nice house and nice retirement money so my daughter can go to college. Lynn's whole thing was, I want everyone to suffer, then I want a sandwich, but let us bully some people first. Completely different energy. Lynn's career started with a near-death experience. He was originally the quartermaster for another terrifying pirate named Francis Spriggs. When he was given command of his own 26-gun vessel, the Sea Nymph, disaster struck immediately. Some people say his ship foundered and sank in a violent ocean storm. Most of his crew drowned, but Lynn, through pure stubborn malice, survived by clinging to a single floating wooden plank in the open sea for days. Line didn't get a respawn point. No, press X to swim faster. Just his mind, a plank, and the worst few days of his life. Instead of being traumatized into early retirement, the moment he was dragged out of the water by another pirate ship, he demanded a new crew and went right back to terrorizing the ocean. But the shipwreck did something to his head and scrambled his brain real good.
Beet juice in the house. This is your brains on drugs.
He didn't just want wealth anymore. He wanted total, unfiltered cruelty. That's not a redemption arc. That's a mugshot with a backstory. Most pirates spend their money as fast as they stole it, in lawless ports like Nassau or Port Royal. The same kind of port towns Jack Sparrow stumbles through. Except in real life, nobody's trading a broken compass for their dignity. They're trading it for medication and antibiotics that don't exist yet. Jack Sparrow gets eyeliner and a franchise. Real pirates got diarrhea and the death note. Some people say, during a massive raiding binge, Lynn hit multiple coastal towns and merchant vessels, looting everything in sight. But he didn't just stop at cargo. Lynn literally looted the entertainment. They raided coastal taverns and brothels, kidnapping a group of local workers, tavern keepers, women, and musicians, dragging them onto their ships. For weeks,
Lin's fleet became a floating, non-stop, Project X-style party drifting through the ocean. It was the hostage situation wrapped in a bad cruise. Some people say the captured musicians were forced to play their instruments on deck around the clock. And if a fiddle player stopped because their fingers were bleeding from exhaustion, Lin's crew would beat them or threaten to throw them to the sharks.
But Lin wasn't the only one who loved torturing captives for fun.
This brings us to the actual twisted games pirates invented when they were bored.
This next part is not a video game side mission. This is the who is the most cruelest Olympics. Some people say Francis Spriggs, Lin's former boss, alongside a man named George Lothar, invented a game called The Sweat. If they captured a merchant captain who tried to run, they'd strip him naked, place a wooden barrel in the middle of the deck, and force him to run circles around it for hours, while the crew poked him with swords and burned him with candles, laughing, betting on how long before he collapsed. And if they got bored of The Sweat, some say captains like Spriggs played De Bastinado, binding a captive's feet and beating the soles until the bones shattered, just to pass a quiet afternoon.
That's such an elementary teacher move.
Anyway, in Black Flag, this skill does not exist in the skill tree, because even in the game there are consequences. But the real crew had too much rum, a scrambled brain for a captain, and not enough consequences.
To give you the scale of this madness, the entire Golden Age of Piracy saw some people say over 2,400 merchant vessels plundered. But Philip Line was a speedrunner of atrocities.
During his short, explosive career, he launched dozens of raids, of course stealing every underwear he finds. I just hope he was not wearing them on his face, because it is hard to raid with pink eye. Edward Kenway took years and a whole game's worth of side content to build his legend. Lin did it in what, a summer? The guy had main character energy, a cycle non-functioning brain, and zero patience. When the rum ran out on his floating brothel, the music stopped and the law started closing in. Lin didn't have any use for his party guests anymore. He didn't sail them back to port. To save weight on the ship and destroy any witnesses, some people say Lin personally began clearing deck space by executing them. At his final trial, the legal depositions allegedly revealed a horrifying number. Some people say Lin had murdered and thrown overboard at least 37 masters of vessels and captives during his reign of terror. Lin is not just a pirate since he enjoyed this much chaos, but at least his crew liked him enough, or they were forced to like him out of fear, since they never betray him. I mean, the dude is crazy. At any moment, you'd become shawarma for the sharks. Eventually, the hangover hit. In late 1725, two heavily armed pirate hunting sloops cornered Lin and the sea nymph near Curacao. A bloodbath of a battle took place. Lin fought like a demon, but he took a catastrophic injury. They say a gunshot blasted directly into his face, shooting out one of his eyes and tearing off half his nose. In Black Flag, that's a cutscene and a cool scar. In real life, good luck finding a good face surgeon at that time. Most men would die on the spot. Lin survived, was dragged off his bloody deck in chains, and stood trial in Curacao with his mutilated nose hanging down his face. During the trial, he didn't beg for mercy. They say he openly bragged about his 37 murders. When they took him to the gallows in early 1726, he was still bleeding from his wounds. The crowd expected tears or prayers. Instead, Lin looked at the executioner, smiled through a shattered bloody face, and roasted the authorities until the rope snapped his neck. Jack Sparrow gets to walk off into the sunset with a happy ending. Edward Kenway gets to hang out with his crew, chanting some of the best songs you can ever hear in your entire life.
I thought I heard the old man say
This is absolutely beautiful. He also gets a peaceful ending and a daughter who becomes a legend. Philip Line gets a rope, half a face, and a footnote in a book nobody reads anymore. Sadly, they don't teach this stuff in history class, even though pirates had a massive impact on a lot of countries, some more positively than others. Some world leaders actually worked with pirates directly. Henry Morgan, for example, went from raiding Spanish ports as a pirate to literally being made lieutenant governor of Jamaica, put in charge of the colony's military and naval defense. So yeah, history low-key promoted a pirate to run a navy. Wonder if that's how we learned to do it. No movie or video game can truly capture the golden age of piracy. It was trauma, stolen underwear, and men who knew they were going to die young, so they decided to have a little fun in their own special way before meeting their executioner. So think again before dreaming of pirates, or your dreams will fade away like your erections. I hope you enjoyed your time here. You must be thinking about pushing that subscribe button. It's okay, go for it. And I want to know if you lived around the golden age of piracy. Do you think you'd be a pirate or part of the entertainment crew? Good night and stay blazed, fellow utopians.